Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Q&A for the SF Indie Fest 2022. I'm Jason Willows, the shorts programmer for Indie Fest Shorts, and this is another Q&A for the program True Blue. And we're honored to have the filmmakers, the director, writer, I believe, and editor for the film True Blue. Hi, guys.
How's it going?
Hello.
Thanks for being here. Where are you calling in from?
Sunny Los Angeles.
All right.
Yep, Los Angeles here too.
Cool. I'm glad you guys made the time. Thank you. Real quick, just tell me your roles on this film. Introduce yourselves so the people that don't know you can put a face to your project, to your movie, and introduce your movie a little bit. Tell us a little bit about the project. John, you'll start, please.
Sure. My name is John Carter. I was a co-writer and director and one of many producers on the film. And yeah, I'll turn it over to Phil and then we can talk about it.
I'm Phil Garrison, and I was a co-writer and producer on the film as well.
Excellent. So, John, you are a co-writer, did you say?
Yeah. It was an idea that had come to me many moons ago, as they say, and I brought it to Phil because we were thinking about getting back in the game after not long after film school, and it was time to do something after interning and bouncing around for a while, and this kind of idea struck the two of us and seemed like something we were both interested in and combining resources and talents on.
Who's the co-writer?
It was the two of us.
Yeah,
Oh, the two of you. Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Wonderful. I thought you were just the editor, Phil. I'm sorry. So then the ideas bounce around, but what was the spark? Like, where'd the idea come from? Are you guys sci-fi fans, or was this in your tour, or what?
Big time, big sci-fi fans. More so Phil, actually. It's sort of the project ended up being a great synthesis between the two things that we're most interested in combining. I'm big into to drama, and he's big into science fiction, and this film ended up being a blend of the two. It was an idea that I had when one day I was taking a walk while at work. I was looking up into the sky. You could see the moon pretty clear, and I was thinking that it would be fascinating if somebody's death was the thing that initially inspired them to take the journey that would inevitably lead to their death. And that was sort of the concept that spun out the story, and the rest of it built from there.
I see. And Phil, how about you? How did you begin this idea journey?
John, or Jack as I know him, have kind of worked together through different projects up to that point. We first met on kind of a smaller Star Wars fan film project, and we had a lot of the same sensibilities and just kind of talking story back and forth. And it turned out that this one was kind of the one that made it through. Jack brought a lot to the project, and I kind of complemented it, and we kind of pushed it along together into this good science fiction drama.
Interesting to see two white males coming up with a female-driven. The characters, forgive my memory, they are
The characters were
romance,
Ryan and Claire. Those were their names.
Ryan and Claire, they are in a relationship. It's a female lesbian relationship. Am I right?
It was written in a manner that we felt would be true to how they felt at the time. But we've gotten some interesting reads from people who've seen the film about what they felt exactly was going on, and what moved them about it. So I would not definitively say what it was. I just know that, first of all, Phil was being modest. The project was not possible without him. He was a huge financier. He was, I would argue, the main reason the film ever got off the ground and went as far as it did. So not just a co-writer, but absolutely the engine that kept the whole thing going. And it was Phil who, when we sat down to write it, and I had mentioned that brief concept, I was talking to Phil about it, and I said, well, I think this, that, and the other thing. And then Phil was like, let's remove preconceived notions about whether or not it's going to be men or women, and let's just focus on what this would kind of play out as from a people perspective. And in that regard, it allowed the drama to drive the story, in and of itself, with, we hope, not falling into any kind of pitfalls that feel expected or stereotypical.
Right. Yeah, Phil, you want to add to that?
No, I mean, he's got it pretty much on the head. Going into a project like this, trying to just treat the characters as people kind of always go back to Alien, where they wrote all characters just as, people, and you can kind of change up the genders as you want, and it really shouldn't affect the story too terribly much. So that's kind of where we approached it.
Because now my memories come back a little bit. The actual core of the story, if I'm right, is basically, the friendship being tested, kind of competitively, but not so much so, just as a kind of career advancement changes for both of them, right?
That's right. Basically, the gist of it was some of the thematics that were playing through the film. In just a quick broad recap, I know this is probably playing after the film, but the broad recap was about these two friends who meet one early dawn, and they both share a mutual affinity for space and space flight, and so they're teaming up as friends, kind of going through the journey from school all the way into an administration and then eventually into the private sector, to essentially go to space, be astronauts, be flight controllers, that kind of thing. And at the core of the story is about strengths and weaknesses. Basically, it's about sort of the grass is always greener, that sort of notion, in which one woman can look at what the other has and think, that's sort of the part that I wish that I had, and vice versa. So that, yes, that was the sort of the key driving the key motivator for the drama, for the conflict, as it were.
It's a universal kind of topic theme, right? I mean,
That was it.
how many friends do you have through your life where it's like careers, kind of challenge the relationship or even, complete it?
Exactly, yeah. And in this particular instance, it was like you said, we were aiming for something universal. So, that archetype of, sort of the rebel versus the bookworm, it's like each has their own strengths and weaknesses, and yeah, that was at the heart of their relationship.
And Phil, if you ever just want to jump in and add to my question before I go on to the next one, just do so.
Will do.
And then, back to just having two strong female leads roles, and as two men, you got some really, as far as from another guy, strong female voices. I mean, pretty authentic to me seems female character voices. Were you paying attention to that, or you get some counsel, you get some advice? How'd you do so well?
I'll throw that to Phil, actually.
You know, at least on my end, again, it just kind of came down to the characters. I don't really think, at least on my end, we were pulling from any specific sources, but we did go through a lot of revisions back and forth. And, once you kind of nail down the character voices and how they would, sound to each other, how they present themselves, and how they want to interact with the world, and how they want to, be perceived by the world, they kind of have their own voices and write themselves a little bit. At least that was my experience. So,
and did you run by the drafts or versions by female friends, family members, anything like that? Get feedback.
Actually, first of all, it feels absolutely, again, it's definitely not just like co-writer in quotes. Like, no, Phil was hugely responsible for how so much of what we hope for the viewers who enjoyed the film turned out to be authentic voices, in the sense that, again, it was propelling, taking what these characters wanted, taking what was important to them, and then, like Phil just said, how they also wanted to be perceived either by each other or by forces outside. That was all what drove it. But yes, to answer your question, we went through many revisions. It was a very long revision process, and then we went through the notes, and in terms of how many people who read it that were women versus men, it was pretty mixed. It was pretty equal. And the only notes, like we got notes back where they were frustrated by certain decisions that the other character was making, and in that regard, that just proved that the drama was driving everything. But right. we never got those the dreaded notes of either no one talks this way, right. So avoiding that pitfall, I feel like we hope we succeeded, and that's been some of the feedback we've heard. But yeah, that was how that shaped out.
Nice. Yeah, your drafts were close. You just were doing some polishing, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the two lead actors, how did they come about? How did you get them on board? Wonderful actors, wonderful performances.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to tell them both that. They'll be very pleased.
And do they have a chemistry too? Because it's just it's really tight.
Yeah, no, they were the thickest thieves during the making of it for sure. I'll condense the story because it was kind of like multi-years of how it all sort of came about. The quick version of it is that when I was interning at a horror company, I was going to do a short for them, and the woman who plays Ryan, her name is Tiffany Cole. She had auditioned for this horror short that we were thinking of doing, that we were going to do, and this was before True Blue, obviously, and it didn't pan out, but she was great. And then the person that lost the role to her, because we had cast it and then it didn't get off the ground. The person who lost the role to her was Danielle Payton, who played Claire, who's the other actor in this film. So they both essentially, were runners up for a project that never happened. And then when we went to go cast True Blue, we hired a casting director this time. It wasn't just, kind of like through cast or whatever and something free. We paid, and we saw at least 100, 150 people. It was a very, very long process for the two leads. And after having not found anyone that particularly just got it, I called the casting director and I said, there's two names that I'd like you to have come in, and let's have them read for both roles and let's just see what happens. And we mixed and matched them with some of the runners up from the casting director's choices for a while. And then in the end, it came right back down to those two.
They floated up to the top. Isn't it funny? I don't know how many movies have you guys made?
So between the two of us, I want to say like 5 or 6 shorts.
Right, so this isn't your first film. Don't you find it's interesting how like your movie, once it gets rolling, the movie also gets a life of itself and makes things happen to make the best picture. Like these two actors, the film wanted these two actors. You know what I mean?
That's right. It becomes a living, breathing thing for sure.
Right. And like a location falls out, but then the other one that comes in the last minute is better.
Yep. It's the happy accidents. Absolutely.
Any other happy accidents or challenges making this movie? I know there's challenges, but unique to your film, maybe. What kind of challenges did you guys encounter?
Oh my goodness, Phil, do you any that come to mind?
There were no challenges. It was a cakewalk.
It was all great. I think once we wrapped filming, getting into the editing and the sound design of it is kind of the most challenging part. Getting everyone's schedules to sync up properly, and then getting the sound and the editing like exactly where we want it, along with some of the VFX work. It was a long post process, but I think it shows in the film. Really, so that I mean the shoot was definitely a beast.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Those 2 weekends.
I mean, we were shooting on film, and
you guys, that's right. You shot on 35 millimeter.
That's right. Yep.
What are you nuts? What are you, crazy?
Exactly. Shooting on 35 millimeter. Around a pool. A little bit of nerves there, and I mean, every scene, every shoot day was a new challenge.
Have you shot with film before?
Actually,
exclusively. I've only ever shot film, and I think Jack has too.
Yep. Yeah, that was another reason why it was sort of a no-brainer for us to come back together. Was Phil beat me to it. His film prior to doing this one, that he wrote and directed, was shot on 35, and I had done one on Super 16 before that, and then worked on film a couple of times, and then we wanted to go with one of the last cinematographers in Los Angeles who knows how to still do it, as the times move on. So it was, in that regard, it was pretty magical. It was a very special experience.
Yeah.
Why are you guys solely on film? Why didn't you consider digital, say, for even economical reasons? Like, why did you stick with film? I mean, I love film. I started in film too, right, with 16, but I'm just curious why you can stay with this choice. It's beautiful.
I'll let Phil go first.
I mean, what hasn't been said about it? There's something magical about, film stock and that process, and kind of being, I mean, I may be wrong here, but like being one of the last generations of film school that came up with, some film knowledge where they're teaching you how to shoot on film.
Yeah.
We just kind of really wanted to do that justice. And if you're going to do it, do it on the biggest, best 35 millimeter. I mean, obviously we could have done IMAX, but I guess we decided not to. It's a little expensive.
Hey, it was considered at one point.
No way! Oh my goodness! I mean, I'm a film lover, so I can appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean that at least for me, and I know Jack has had, I mean, he loves film stock, and that's what we grew up with, so that's what we kind of decided to go with and try and make our mark using that same medium as well.
Yeah.
And overall, not just, you know, for whatever the aesthetic argument, just setting that aside, it was kind of the idea of when you think about, as I know you're well versed and well aware of, the blood, sweat, and tears that go into a project. It's one of those things that if you are going to do it, and it's not just for the sake of expediency or efficiency, when you go to shoot on film, you know, it's people's attitudes are different once you get them on the set. You know, when you go do a take and you hear that little sound, right? You hear that. Everyone always jokes like that's the sound of dollars, you know, like, right, as it's running, because you can't just get another take or, you know, so easily. But it's sort of like, you know, it sounds kind of corny, but it's not, right? It's kind of like it's all of our lives, the magic of film. There's something about it that allows you to, when you do use the medium, it harkens back to the stuff that you grew up on or that you were inspired by. And so you feel more like, at least for us, having come from the generation that Phil's talking about, you feel more like you're doing the thing that you talked about wanting to do your whole life. And
you're actually filmmaking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very big part of the experience and the process. And also, you know, people know once you do that and you tell anyone, whether you're at a rental house or you're hiring crew or whatever, you say, we're shooting on 35 millimeter. No one assumes at that point that you're just going to kind of be a flake or you're going to do whatever and you're going to bounce around. Yeah, everybody at that point knows you're very serious. You absolutely mean business, and there's a very small margin for error.
And not to geek out too long here on film, but how'd you get the film stock? How was the process? How about developing? Where'd you send to develop it? Real quick, I don't want to lose some audience members over film stock, but any I mean, was this the typical channels of old years, you know, buying from Kodak or buying from Fuji, or, you know?
Wow, it's been a while, and I know that the place, I wish we had Matt on, he was a cinematographer, he could delve into a lot of it, but the short answer and the not too technical answer is we did find a film house, and they had some of the short ends from a feature that had just finished called Jane's Got a Gun. It was a Natalie Portman film, and it was a very specific stock of Kodak that we wanted to use. So we were able to get what was left of their production. So that was pretty great, because they weren't making, I don't think they were making the stock anymore. I've got the numbers written down somewhere, what precise stock model it was. And then we got a little bit of Fujifilm also, some stock that had also gone away. Again, I've got it written down. I can't remember precisely which one it was, but it was the last of that. Because as you remember, when Fuji closed down, they melted the rest of their stock for the nickel, which was, of course, travesty. But and when we put the film through, and again, this is sort of dating per what Phil said about how long this post-production process was. When we were getting out of production into post, we were one of the last films to go through Deluxe's lab in Los Angeles before they closed.
Oh, really?
I think we made the cutoff within, I want to say, like a month or two, maybe it was week.
When was this? Was this last year? When was this?
2012, I think.
That's 2013.
Got it.
2013, yeah.
Yep.
I was actually working at Deluxe at that point.
Really?
This film has had a long road.
It has. So a couple things. So Deluxe is closed. They're long gone. I don't even know how many more film processing houses there are. And how long was the road in general? I know it wasn't every day of your lives, but how long was the start to finish, and how long was post?
Oof.
You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer.
No, I mean,
I don't even remember when we started writing.
If it's too painful.
What'd you say, Bill?
I don't even remember when we started writing it. Was that 2010?
We started writing. I think we started writing. I'm pretty sure we started writing in 2012. Lucky 2012. We shot in 2013. 13 is my lucky number, so I'm very happy with that. And we were able to finally wrap it per what Phil was talking about, a challenge of working around schedules with brilliant technicians of people that you want to work with. We were able to finally wrap it up in 2020.
Wow. Well, you guys get the Persistence Award and the Stick to Itness Award. Holy cow.
Hey, listen, we're just thankful that we don't have any flip phones anywhere in the film. I feel like that would be the big giveaway, right? Like,
good point. You're dated before you even get to release.
No, we're all good. We're all good. Every time we show it to somebody, thankfully, they're just like, "Oh, cool. Did you finish this last year?" We're like, "Yep, that's the idea."
Nice. So what's something that you learned from this whole project? I know you're filmmakers and you do this, full time more or less, but did this project teach you anything? Whether about filmmaking technically, if you want, or just, about you learn something about yourself.
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean, I could say I could learn something about you guys. Do have the stick to itness. You guys will get it done. If you believe in it, right? That's impressive.
Well,
I can actually say I learned a couple things. I doubled down on my the knowledge that I had previously that I do not want to be a director. It's the most stressful job in the world, and I'll leave it to other people who can handle it. Being a producer is, that's tough enough, I think. And I also learned quite a bit about how to write and kind of adapt on the fly with another person, kind of complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. That's something that definitely I carry with me to this day, is like how to take criticism and how to, not be too precious about your product, but also stand up for the things that you truly believe in and kind of fight tooth and nail for, 5 words here and there that are absolutely going to make or break the project, and you truly believe in it. So
good points.
that
Good
was,
points. Good lessons. Yeah, and it's like those are good to hear. It's like it's also, even if you've already learned it once, you got to kind of refresh yourself, remind yourself. Keep the saw sharp, if you will.
yeah.
right.
And John, or AKA Jack, did you learn anything?
So much, just so much. Obviously, over the course of that many years, obviously, exactly what Phil had mentioned in terms of. I'm just trying to think of a nice way to condense all of it really quick. I think, yeah, because it was a long road, of course. But I would say the thing that I learned the most from the entire experience was when it's time to go into the next one, just never feeling cornered by any decisions that need to be made during the process. And essentially, I almost want to say it's like you're checking ego at the door, but also at the same time, you're just knowing what you want. If some people would define that as ego, I don't know. But if you know what you want and you know what needs to be done to get it, and of course, not at the expense of like anybody else or anything, nothing like that, all good stuff. If you know what you want and you're willing to fight for it, then, you take that on. You take on that responsibility and you say, I'm going to own this, and whatever needs to happen, I'll make happen. But to not place blame on anyone, not point fingers, it's what you want, and there's a way to get it done. So go figure out how to get it done, and that's all that matters at the end. And as long as you're comfortable with that, you've made peace. And I think that was the biggest lesson. Yeah.
I agree. One of the most important skills, if you want to call it a skill, of a director is like decision making. I mean, both against your kind of, with all the influences and distractions, and then also with your kind of second guessing critic in your head. It's just the right choice. Is it good enough? That kind of stuff. So I agree with you 100%. So maybe 1 or 2 more questions. What is this film? It's like 30 minutes long?
Yeah, just under it. Yeah.
So why a short? Why not a feature?
It started out as sort of almost, I want to say, a preview for, what would inevitably be a feature. And, ironically, some of the comments that we've gotten back at other places, that we've gone, or other people that we've seen, is always like, where's the rest? I want to see the rest of the movie. I want to see everything that happened in between the time jumps and in between the gaps. So we're not necessarily shorts guys. We generally, tend to think like on film and to think big. And in this particular instance, it was a sort of a happy compromise of knowing. Phil said very early on in the process, he had said, I know that you want to, try to tell something that feels complex and nonlinear. So I think the only way to put this together is to tell this story emotionally while we jump from, scenes and moments of their life. So that was how, the arc was built and defined for them. But that's why it's a short, is just because we obviously didn't have the money to do something as big as we would have liked at the time, but we thought maybe we can put together a very compelling image of, what that might look like.
But you didn't set out going, let's make a short, let's make a feature. It's just like the material kind of said, this is what it is.
Yeah, that's a pretty, yes. I mean, obviously it evolved over time for sure. But initially I wanted to tell this quick little story, and telling it nonlinear and in pieces felt right. And then as we built it, it's kind of like, well, there is a feature here, and there are 3 timelines worth of both of these both of these women's lives, that we could get into if we wanted. So that's something that has been in development for sort of a very long time. It's kind of on the back burner in a sense that I've been personally chipping away at. I haven't brought it to Phil, but it's each timeline is pretty, at this point, 7 years later, I've got probably, it would make Alfred Hitchcock fall asleep for sure. He's always like talking about, life without the boring parts, right? I've got more backstory than I know what to do with for the feature of True Blue. But I'm sure
trim that down, cut some stuff out and get it to Phil. Phil, you got something coming. You got some material.
Yeah, I'll chop it down. I'm a good editor, ruthless.
All right, guys, we got to wrap this up. Anything you want to add that I didn't ask you, or any comments you want to give us at the end here before we sign off?
Just that I had a chance to take a look at all, because I know this. I'm assuming this is playing at the end of the block. That the block was great. We got a chance to watch the films and really enjoyed them. There was a lot of cool stuff.
Here.
I had questions for all the filmmakers. I was very excited to talk to them. So maybe I'll try and find them offline and then bring that. But then also wanted to say thank you very much for having us. We're very grateful to be included in the festival, and yeah, it's clearly we're among some pretty talented filmmakers, and we're grateful to be a part of it.
Right on. We're grateful for you and your work. Phil, you want to add anything at the end here?
I think he's just about said it all. Thanks again for giving us a chance to talk about our movie, and thanks for putting it out for people to show. And yeah, really appreciate that.
Well, we couldn't do it without you guys, without filmmakers. Thanks for making your movie, completing your movie. Thanks for getting it done and submitting to our festival. Congrats on getting in, and good luck to you in all your future endeavors and successes. It was good meeting you guys. I hope I meet you in person someday.
It was great meeting you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jason.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Check out more indie films at sfindie.com. And thanks for supporting independent film and movie theaters. Bye, everybody.